I am going to start us out with the quintessential technique. That is why we're all here for watercolor, is wet on wet. And it is particularly amazing to work with organic things, birds, flowers, so many things you can do with it. So let's take a look. You want your subject to be, your paper to be glistening, but not dripping. I've wet it before, I've let it dry just a little, and now it's good to go. I want you guys to see some of the effects. This is a more abstract look and feel. You're dropping in paint and letting it do its thing. You can be a lot loose. The other thing that's great about wet on wet is to set like your background tones for a painting. Kind of get a first layer in, kind of a quick, almost like a quick sketch, like get something in quick, sketchy. And you can drop, see, I just put a little bit of red or brown next to my brown there. And the key, and I have learned this, is to not move it around and let it do its thing. So once you get the water down, you don't want to fuss too much. Let's look at how this goes when I start dropping in. I'm going to put a little bit of a tan down here, and you're going to love to see what happens when we start to drop in a little bit of the shadowing. So I'm going to do that with a little bit of blue, and look, it's going to start to just really get in there for us. Look at that, just kind of exploding all around, and it's going to be so cool. And it looks weird now, but guess what? It's all going to blend in together and look amazing. And that's part of the fun of it. It's definitely letting go of some control. I have no idea what this blue is going to do over here. Do I care? I do care, but I have to let go of that care for now to let it do its thing. Look at that, guys. Look how fun. It's almost a marbled effect. I'm going to put in some even stronger orange while we see what happens. See? We'll see. And now I'm going to let it go. And we're just going to see what happens. And so you'll see when we compare this to the wet on dry, you're going to see a real difference in how the paint lays down on your paper first, what it does, how it behaves when you've got it on, and what it ends up looking like at the end. This one is definitely more about the process versus the product. I love the process of this. I'm not really worried about how it comes out right now. I just want to see what it does for me. Put in some of this. Let's let it go. Okay, I'm going to let that dry and we'll come back. Okay, you guys can see how it's drying. Pretty cool. We've got a great blend of colors going. I love this part down here. And it's just got this kind of organic feel. Fun thing, you can splatter paint around it when you're done. You can all sorts of stuff. But wet on wet, this is just an example, but you want to practice and get a feel for what it can do for you. Get a feel for how much water. You don't want to be gushing water into here. How much water is on your brush? How much water is on your paper? If it's got just the right kind of blend, it's going to do some cool things. Okay, let's go on to wet on dry. So I'm going to take the same exact colors that I used over here, but this time, look, I've got more control. I'm able to sort of lay down the paint where I want it to go, and it's not going to move around so much for me. And again, we're always painting light to dark in watercolor. So I'm doing it as kind of a light first pass here. And I'm not going to take too much time on my first pass. But look, I'm almost almost like using art markers. I'm putting it all exactly where I want it to go. This, ideally, combining both of these methods is what's really going to give you some cool things. You can end up with some hard edges with this that you could blend out and soften. Let's try with our orangey color too. You'll see how I'm really controlling it in here. I'm going to put it here. I'm just able to really decide where it's going. Still some spontaneous things happening, for sure. Still some spontaneous happy accidents that always happen with me. but I've got a lot more control. But we're not getting as much as the magic that goes on over here, but it's still beautiful. And guys, we're going to talk about using both of these in tandem, because why not? Use all the amazing properties that it has to offer. Okay, I'm going to let that first pass of our wet on dry, dry, and come back. Third technique, but let's look at how we ended up here. We can see the difference now, wet on wet and wet on dry. A little more control, a little less control, but really awesome results. And then what I want to do here is just a texture example. There's other ways you can get texture, but this is something I'd like you to know how to do as a technique. I take my brush and make it pretty dry. It's called dry brush. And then I'm going to grab a pretty thick layer of paint. It's not dripping off my brush. And then just drag. And we're just adding texture that way. It's a really cool thing. You can do little feathery textures. You can catch it on the side and catch the bumps of the paper. And that's really cool for creating like gaps and waves or other texture. It's a really cool texture effect. Let's see if we can put some of the orange in the belly. I put just a light layer of color under here so it would have something to show. Let's see. We just drag it across, see? Just dragging that texture in there. I'm not trying to fill a space so much as I am trying to jump around and get some texture. I might put like we need a little sienna over there. Some on the breast of it. So you guys can see it's just really giving us some cool stuff. And then let's do the like little grayish blue shadow that we've got going on. I'm using the same colors for all the birds, but you guys can see there's such a different sort of effect. There's not really an entire design you would do dry brush on for the whole thing, but it's cool just to see how that would look. So you see, it's just a lot of cool little textures you can do. You can get a smaller brush and drag some, but you want it to be kind of dry in between. Let's do the tail too, so you can get a sense of what that's like. Same thing, I'll use like reddish brown. And we can just drag it down. See how it's catching on the bumps of the paper? And it's just making kind of cool texture effects. Okay, we'll let that dry, add a little more detail, and then we're going to super fun, last but not least, ink and wash. And the last one is so fun and so expressive. This is just an ink and wash. So take a permanent black and just go over your sketched out design and do just super expressive lines. You can do so many cool things. Just going up. I want to get these guys in here. Just so expressive. You want to get the basics in there, but super expressive. You can do a more realistic line and wash too, but it's fun when we do it expressive. Okay, now, so much fun. Same colors we were using. And we're just going to wash them over the top. And I may just use, this is like just almost like a flat wash. I may just use one pass here. You know what? First, let's erase this. Oh my goodness, y'all. We don't want all the pencil lines. Okay. Let's do it. Just to get around in there. I want that to be a little more brown on some of the, and we just literally, this is like coloring in coloring book kind of thing. So fun. Ink and wash is really cool for urban sketching, urban scenes. Lots of stuff you can do where you create the whole cityscape or the house or the architecture and then just kind of fill it on in. How fun is that, y'all? Oh my gosh, look what I'm doing all over. So fun. Okay, then we want some of our orange and we wash that in too. And just kind of loose, not necessarily wet on wet, just kind of a loose, nice little wash. And then I'm going to get my little shadow color in there too. And that, my friends, is pretty much it for that. We'll add some details. I mean, how cool is that? We'll add in a few details and then you guys can decide which one you like better. I'm gonna have a quiz and see if you guys can pick them all out. And then we're gonna do a practice of each of these techniques one by one so you guys can get a little bit more practice. So let's do that now. Okay guys, let's practice hands on eucalyptus leaves. I had one of these, they smell amazing. You know you can hang these on your shower too and create a little herbal shower experience. I had a bouquet. My husband's students brought him. He had some dust in the family and this was in there and I thought this is perfect to help, especially for beginners, because the shapes are so kind of doable. And really we can do a lot. First of all, let's get a green, a brown, a blue, and a yellow. We're gonna practice these larger blown up ones together. And then we're gonna be on our own with some nice music to do a whole branch of each technique. Okay, guys, really in reality, like we're talking about with the birds, it is a mixture of these that we use. You really just use one technique for one thing. Okay, get your brush kind of wet. We're just prepping this one right now. We just want it to be really light green back here. So take your brush pretty wet and then go ahead and fill in. I made a couple of pairs of these leaves for 4, and we're going to the dry brushing one and just getting it ready. Okay, let's move over to our left side over here and do our wet on dry. So as we talked about before and as it implies, it's wet media on dry paper. So we're gonna go ahead in here and we're going to get a good, I have a medium wetness here. And we just have it ready. With that, we can add just a little bit more to the base. I don't want a lot of mixing going around right now. I'm just getting in my, this is really just our first layer. And we can, let's go up at the top and try something different. We're gonna take a little bit of your green and then go in and just put a little bit of blue at the top. That will mix around a little bit for us there, but we're able to sort of control it better with this wet on dry. See, as we're doing it, it's like as if we're dyeing fabric and let's say we're doing tie-dye and you're drawing with the dye versus wetting it all and letting it sort of spread out. Right now we're doing like drawing with it. I want to draw over here. I want to have a little curve here. And you know exactly that's where it's going. I'm going to get a little darker green just at the bottom of my two larger ones down here and just add a little bit of darker. I don't really want a lot of bleeding and blending. I just wanted to get that in. Okay, ready for wet on wet. Speaking of bleeding and blending, super fun. Okay, let's get our leaves for the wet on wet, wet. And then we're gonna let it dry just a second. I'm not getting it super crazy soaking wet. When you're working on an artwork that has a wet on wet, let's say you're doing an animal or a landscape or something else, you want the background to be, you want it to be able to see that it's glistening, but it's not dripping down. We don't want the stuff to be able to just shoot out everywhere and have absolutely no control. But we want it to be able to move around in there. So a lot of the whole thing figuring out is how much water's on your brush, how much water's on your paper, how much paint consistency. You're working with kind of 3 variables there a lot of times, and that's why people give up on watercolor. So please do not. You are absolutely going to love it if you stick with it. And we'll try to talk you through what that looks like. So here we go. We've got it. It's set in there. Now, here's the fun part. Get it wet, medium wet. Let's grab our green and just dab away. Let's put some at the bottom. Let's put some over here. I want to put, let's say I want to add a little yellow up here to see what happens there. And you see, I don't really have as much control over what's happening here. See, I'm just gonna let it kind of blend up there and see where it goes. And then one of the cool things we can do, which I love, is charging, or it's really kind of just getting it supercharged with some more color. So you can get that in. Look, tap here, watch it spread. Tap here, I kind of did that and forced it up here, but here I'm just letting it happen. So perfect. We're letting all that just kind of do its thing. And let's come back. We're gonna have to, that's the thing too. You can't, even if you say, oh my gosh, I just wanna mix that with my brush, that would be so good. You just really can't. I'm adding to the top. I just said that and it looks like I'm doing what I just said not to do. But I'm just adding to the very top of it. I'm not touching what was right under it. Okay, but you kind of have to let it go. Okay? So now we're ready to do our dry brushing because it's pretty good. I want you to take your brush and I want you to spread out the bristles and make it fairly dry. With your hand, you can spread it out. Now, I want to put a little texture in here. I would probably never do an entire leaf with this or an entire branch, but it's cool just to see how you could. It's great for animal fur. Here we go. I got it. Speaking of animal fur, there's my little Chihuahua mix. It's great for even showing texture in water, leaving some white of your paper and showing waves. So what it is really, we're just kind of dragging it down and creating, and you can go sideways, and it's catching on the bumps of the paper. See? It's creating a nice, like, sort of texture-y effect there. Like I said, I wouldn't do this fully with a leaf, but you could do it in botanicals, or you could do it for, like, scrubby shrubs, or like some evergreens or something you want to just add a little texture. You could texture dry brush snow onto things. So there's definitely a lot of applications. Let's try. I dried my brush again and kind of spread out the bottom again, and I'm putting it into the blue just for fun because I want to kind of keep it consistent with the colors that we've got going. And got that. I got a lot of that. It's okay. We're going with it. See, a lot of broken up texture. Okay, similar. Bringing you back to the bird. Similar to, it kind of worked well on bird wings. It works well for fur. Lots of technique time you can do it, and we're using the paper to work with us. Here's one of my favorites, guys, ink and wash. So you can either make it straight, like follow your lines exactly, or you can be a little more expressive with it. I add a couple of things there. Just make it a little more fun, up to you. And then I'm gonna erase my lines there. And then this one, I want you to get your brush pretty wet. And we're almost using this as the wet on wet consistency, but we're just kind of doing the wash. We're just getting it in there, look, wherever. And we want to just, this one, the key to it is just having fun and doing little variations. Putting in some color here, dropping some here, and you're just following along. This is really good for like urban sketching, doing buildings, doing a building and then just washing some color over the top of all the cool details you've put into the building. Don't ask me, that is not my forte. I do like it. I did one European village scene sort of like that, but it's not, the details aren't usually my thing. I'm much more about the expressive, like open, not within the lines. I get more excited about that. But the ink and wash is cool to make, if you get a cool scene like that, and then you can cover it in. Okay, we got all that. See, is this kind of hopefully making a little sense? So the way that they look and how you use them. And guys, here's the hint. We're going to use all of them in almost everything we do. I'm gonna have a little bird tutorial, the cutest ever. This guy, this chunky English robin. So in this one, we'll use a combination of 3 or 4 of these techniques. So usually, like I said, you really just wouldn't do like only one. You could do a whole wet on wet landscape, walk away and be done. Done with it in that one technique. Okay, the wet on wet, the first layer is dry. Go back in, guys, and dab a little more and see what happens. And it's not fully dry, but it's dry enough for us to add some places if we like. I'm gonna do a little here. See if I like it. I may hate it, but this is the idea, is that we can build on these. Usually we would build up now. On this one, we would build up wet and dry. Might want to put in a little bit of brown just for fun, like some corners of the leaf. And I'm telling you guys, this is gonna start looking so good when we do this in a second in smaller instead of these random blown up pieces. Let's do a little yellow and see how that comes out. And I got it pretty wet. I'm putting it in. And our wet on dry is dry. And now what this is doing for us is like glazing over. I did something with this. I did a prickly pear and I glazed blue over a dried green underneath. We can do that now too. I'll grab some blue and see. It's just gonna darken that blue-green effect for us, see? And that is sort of like glazing a little color over the top. We do it a lot. Look for, if you want that video, it looks like the Jean Vermeer girl with the pearl earring. I did like a skin tone over it. Okay, guys, this is the practice. We're gonna let some of this dry and check it out, but hopefully you got the techniques now. I'm gonna pause the video. We're gonna do a little drawing and we're gonna do 3 minutes on each. I'm gonna pause the talking, but keep the video going. So here's what I'd like you guys to do. Flip it over on the back or get another paper and draw 4 sections of branches for these. So I did S curves. So S, backwards S, S, backwards S. I'm gonna set a timer. We're gonna do 3 minutes on each. So you gotta kind of move. And we're just gonna go to each one and see which technique you like the best. Similar to comparing the birds, it's going to come out something like this, but we have to experiment along the way and see what you think. Okay, guys. Draw that in, draw some leaves. Really, it's no perfect thing you have to do. Just get them in. And then I'm going to erase a little bit of mine so I don't see them so much in the final. I'll leave the ink and wash for now. I highly recommend these gum erasers for getting a lot of the pigment out. You can roll it and then it doesn't rip up your paper as well. It's awesome. Okay. I'm gonna put on the music and we're gonna start with wet on dry, but first we're gonna do the prep for dry brushing. Remember, we have to get that little layer in. So let's do that first and then we'll move over to wet on dry. Okay, guys, I'm gonna turn off the audio.
Okay guys, how did you feel about this? We've got some things we can talk about, comparing some of these. The wet on dry and wet on wet is at this point dried somewhat similar. You can tell there wasn't as much control on these. I like that look. And then we're not done. We would need a second pass. This one we need a second. We can do a little bit of that as we're talking. But do you love the ink on wash? I think that's so fun. You can also, like I said, do it straight as if you're doing, you know, just outlining a building or doing anything like that. An example of some things we would do here is strengthening some of the color in some places. This is where we only have one color value right now. Really, we did our lightest. And so we would come back in here and be adding some things. And so this is what, and this is still the wet on dry. So this is making that look awesome. We get a little bit more of our blue if you guys want to do that. You can. What else do you notice? Is there anything else we should be pointing out? The dry brush, I think, if you think as I do, is a little bit ridiculous for something like this, but it's cool to see. It's definitely a cool, like, little loose, textury look. But we don't really need that for eucalyptus leaves since now there's some cool texture, almost like that powdery underleaf texture there. And we could dry brush that on top, but we wouldn't create the whole structure of the leaf with it. But at least it was fun to try. So you guys will definitely put in another pass. If you want to practice a whole nother set of these, do it. If you want to practice these with just like squares and going across, perfect. I'm the kind of person who's never ever read an instruction manual past the first couple of lines. I'd like to do everything hands-on. I was a Montessori teacher at one point. I would have been a Montessori kid. I need hands-on. I need real-life application. If it's esoteric, if it's a bunch of words in the manual, not so much. So I hope you guys like jumping right in and trying this. We can do lots of projects with it. I'm gonna have a whole eucalyptus tutorial coming up this week, and we will have a cute little English robin. Guys, I hope that these 4 methods give you a great base for your watercolor practice and your hopefully new lifelong affair with watercolor. Have a great one, guys. Get in your studio, keep the mojo flowing, and I'll see you for some more work and some more tutorials.